I think people are going to slowly continue filtering in, but it's a rainy afternoon here in Canberra, so we're going to get started. What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to bring up the agenda. So I'm going to share my screen right now. I'm in our little webinar booth in our new offices. So what I'm doing here is everybody should be able to see our the invite, the event invite that went out. I just wanted to tell you what we're going to be looking at today, what we're not going to be looking at. And then we're going to just jump straight into a big live demo that's sure to go completely smoothly for the rest of the half hour. Probably the first thing to note is we're a little bit behind on this one. We were looking at having the interactive tours ready for today's session, but we weren't able to get them complete and to the standard that we wanted to put out to our users. So we're going to be pushing that one back to the next session, the next webinar, but everything else we're going to be running through. So the big things today are really around kind of helping people like Geordie said on the beginning of that journey. So when you're starting out, how do we start getting as much content in and start quality reviewing as quickly as possible? So the things we're going to look at are that issues and reviews, like quality control. We're going to look at bulk uploading content. We're going to look at a new bulk downloader as well. So we've got a really nice kind of back and forth between Excel we can use in those early stages. We're going to be looking at the data interrogator. So how do we do really complex queries to start analyzing the quality of our content? And then lastly, and this is kind of cool, I think this is probably one of the most exciting projects we've done in a little while, is we're going to look at a brand new review tool. So we're going to run through the current system, and then we're going to launch a beta tool with everybody here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this down, and we're going to just jump straight into live demos. So here we can see a really blank Aristotle Metadata Registry that, I'll close that I have filled in with a little bit of content ready for this demonstration. But what you can see here is just the home page. The first thing that we're going to be looking at today is what we were talking about, the issues and reviews. So as a little background for everybody, this is a nice soft introduction to people who haven't used Aristotle before. We're just going to jump to the homepage, and we're going to show you we've done a little bit of a change of the layout for the issues. So for those of you who aren't aware, besides just having content in Aristotle, besides just metadata, we're starting to build a lot of workflows through the platform as well to help people start engaging with metadata across the system. As you can see, I've got an issues tab now, and we've tweaked the layout of this to show a little bit more information and to add a little bit of filtering as well. So we've got a new improved search bar for the issues here, and we can see who's opened it, what group they're in, what stewardship organization they're a part of, so who are they working with more broadly, and then the description of the issue. So as you can see here, I've only got one issue in, and we'll create a couple through this session. And it's talking about a minimum data standard that I've defined called the wholesale customer minimum data standard. So we've started entering some content around data that we're tracking about our customers. What I can see is if I click in here, I'll be able to see a couple of interesting things. So I can see that this is part of a review. So my DSS, my data set specification, is part of a review. And we had an issue that we were talking about earlier that's now showing up under our issues tab, looking at insufficient detail. So again, a minor layout change there, but what I'll do is, because we're going to be covering the reviews in a bit of depth today, what I'll do is I'll talk through, we'll do a pause in a second. So the next thing I want to look at is that review specifically. So jumping in, for those of you who aren't familiar, again, we've started to capture everything around the review process in a single location in Aristotle. So you can see here, I've opened a review for this item. I've attached my minimum data standard and said, look, I'm going to review this content. And also when I open this issue, I've asked to review everything underneath it. So just quickly jumping back to our issue here, you can see that like everything, this has included a data element in Aristotle, and that itself has a whole bunch of content underneath. So we're starting to see that depth through here just from this small example. And the problem is that we've got to be able to make sure that we're reviewing all this content. And that's what the reviews are designed to capture. So the idea here is I can request the system to kind of make sure everybody participating in this review knows that everything in this review needs to be tracked at the same time. So we want to check off everything as a part of this minimum data standard. We're going to review everything in it. So we're going to review all of our object classes and our properties and everything in there. As you can see, trying to click on all of these, it starts to become quite onerous. So I've got this 5 or 6 different things that need to be tracked. And we're going to show the beta tool that's going to fix this problem towards the end. But again, this is what we're currently looking at. So the ability for us to track all of the issues under this review, for us to see, any information that needs to be added. I can start to control my reviews and my issues and my workflows here. So I'm going to do a quick pause there, and I'm going to start asking for feedback again. So issues and reviews, we've seen a couple of, got some people waiting in the lobby. So we've just had a quick review of the issues and the reviews. Are there any questions people want to ask kind of around this before we jump further in? Or again, we're still waiting for the cool new stuff?
Looks good.
So cool new stuff. Again, we've started to improve on some of our bulk upload functionality. So for those of you, again, we'll just do a quick review for those of you who aren't aware. In Aristotle, we have the ability to kind of create individual components one at a time. So if I'm creating a new data standard, I can create a new data standard, and then I'd have to come back here and I'd have to create all of my data elements and then all of the components underneath. It's a bit of a pain, but it's necessary for that, good quality metadata journey for us to go on to have all of these components there. What we've started looking at is the ability for us to streamline that process up. And the way that we've been doing that is through a tool that we're calling the Simple Data Dictionary format. So the Simple Data Dictionary format is a really cool thing that we've developed for kind of capturing data dictionaries in Excel. And conveniently enough, here's one I prepared earlier. So one of the issues that somebody's raised against our data set specification is there wasn't enough detail, there weren't enough things in there. So again, while I was kind of preparing for this, I've started to build out a little data dictionary here. And as you can see, I've got all of my components defined. So we've got a nice page that I'll bring up just quickly. So if I go to labs.aristotlemetadata.com, we actually have a page specifically around the Simple Data Dictionary, and it's got all of the information necessary for you to understand how to develop these yourselves. We're also starting to put some of that help in the tool as well. But the important thing to look at here is, I'll just jump back. My Simple Data Dictionary is basically just a way of recording the different columns in the specification, my data elements, my value domains, my data element concepts, object classes, and so on, all in a single place. The biggest addition that we've added recently is the ability for us to link to existing content in the registry. So previously it was a bulk upload, and then if it was wrong, you'd have to go back and edit it, or if you wanted to link to existing content, you couldn't. We've fixed that problem immediately. So we've started to add the ability for us to link to existing things. So as you can see here, what I want to attach in is I want to add the person's age and a customer's account number. And knowing that I've already got a person defined, I can actually grab the universal identifier for that and enter it in. So the UUID, or universal identifier, for those of you who aren't aware, shows up in the info box. So we can now grab these and link them when we're bulk uploading content. So again, in that early process when we're trying to build a lot of content in, this is designed to streamline that process, and it looks a little something like this. So I'm going to close that out because we've identified that Excel on Windows sometimes keeps files locked and you can't upload them. So there's a pro tip. But I'm going to import my specification, and all I need to do is I just need to drag it in. So as you can see here, I'm going to drag my dictionary in, I'm going to upload it, and it should find all of the linkages for me. So it's found all of the linkages, so it's going to create some new data elements, some new value domains, some new data element concepts, some new properties, and it is not linking my object class for some reason. I will check that out. Oh, here we go. It's only found, it's only creating one object class, but as you can see here, this data element concept person age, it's actually linking to something that already exists in the registry, so it doesn't need to create it again. So if I was to save this, and this is always the brave part of live demos, it's going to create everything behind the scenes. And because we're running, there we go. So it's saved everything, it's linked everything across. And if I went back to my dataset specification, I would see that everything's now been uploaded and added in. The really cool thing here is that as part of my review, when I go back to my review, I can see that the number of things that I want to control as part of this review, that I want to get somebody to kind of participate in and help me quality control, has grown. So it's actually gone and grabbed everything back. The downside, and again, we're going to see this fixed at the end, but the downside is there's more for me to review. There's a lot of content that I need to review. So for me to check that everything's looking right, I'm going to have to go in, I'm going to have to open it in a new tab, I'm going to have to look. It's a bit of a pain, but we've got a solution coming up. So the idea is, again, my review is going to pick up all those changes so that as things happen, I can see what's happening behind the scenes. So again, a little bit of a pause there. That's our new kind of a small addition to the uploader. Any more questions? Like, anybody got any feedback or questions they want to add here? And I'll just
No, it looks good. I had a question about who's going to be able to kick these off. Is this so into the previous screen, but that was a distribution, and then you could upload things into the distribution based off Excel spreadsheet?
Yep.
Correct? Okay, good. Yeah, I was just wondering who would be able to use this, given that it all automatically feeds into that review process. That was where my mind first jumped, is, if you're able to update things just by loading it in from Excel, how does that work with the permissions? But obviously you thought of that.
Yeah, we have. So anybody's able to kind of use the uploaders based on their permissions. And again, they're only able to link to content that they have the permission to see. So if you accidentally give somebody an identifier, they're not going to be able to create links to that. And they're not going to be able to update things they don't have permission to change. So all of the uploaders follow all of the exact same kind of controls that we have in the system already. It's just a way of kind of, again, adding more in a really quick pace. But thank you for that question.
Cheers.
Any other questions while I try and adjust my audio?
Hi, Sam. I've got a question.
Oh,
sorry, you go ahead, Tanya.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I assume it all has to be in that format in the Excel file to actually get it in. And if one of the columns didn't work, it wouldn't import the whole thing. You'd have to go back and...
It won't upload it, but we've done a lot of work around error handling. So I'm just going to bring one up and I'll show you what that looks like. So if I just went and added something completely wrong, you'll see, and I'll save that. And if we tried to do that again, if I tried to import some more in, and if I tried to drag that across, it will tell you, there we go. So it'll give you an error and kind of tell you what needs to be done and what you'd need to change it to. So we've limited it back to common fields across all the metadata types, but it will assist you and it will try and provide as much feedback as possible during that upload process. So it's not going to completely, again, I think this is one of the things that really irritates me as somebody who uses software all the time. An error with no help on how to fix it is really just bums you out. This is designed, we've tried to make sure that if you can't upload it, it will tell you why. So there was that. And I think there was another question as well.
Yeah, that was me. Kind of related. What are is there a minimum metadata requirement for the bulk upload?
I think the only thing you need to make sure you've got is a data element, otherwise it's not able to link things together. So you don't have to go across the entire chain, but we encourage as much as possible to kind of fill them out, because this makes joining and creating them a little bit easy. But no, there is no minimum there. You can remove as many columns as you want. So you'll also see we provide you with templates as well. When you download the templates, it's got all of the possible fields, and then we encourage you to remove the ones that you're not comfortable with to bring it back to a more manageable kind of number. And you'll also see we've got a direct link to that help page as well.
Okay, thanks.
Cool.
I had one more question, Sam.
Sure.
With regards to value domain input for this uploader,
Yep.
can you, like, is it formatted so that you can add permissible values using the spreadsheet rather than manually adding them?
Yes, it is.
Yay.
It's a little bit finicky, and I didn't include an example, but I'll give you a quick demo right now because that's what this is for. This is for grilling Sam and making sure everything works. So I'll remove our something completely wrong. And the way that it works is I'll just add the column back in. So we need to add, so permissible values, as Geordie's kind of raised, what we use to kind of define code lists. So where we know that data comes from a standard set of responses, we can add this in. So if we added permissible values, this is really dependent on me being able to spell right now, Geordie. So let's say, for example, we've got our age here. If I wanted to update this and say maybe A is 0 to 10, and then B would be 11 to 25 years, and then so on, we can do that. The format is basically whatever the code is, a little semicolon, and then whatever the meaning is. So you can put as many of those in as you want to kind of build out those codes. It's just one of those things where nesting tables within tables in Excel is a bit of a tricky one. So this is the way that we've worked around that for now.
Yep. And does that work with the dates as well if you add them onto the end of each entry?
No.
Yeah, I thought that might be a bit harder, but even that's a good improvement. Thanks.
No worries. All right. Any other questions on dictionaries and uploads and stuff? So probably one other thing to note is these are available. This data dictionary format is available for, we've got 3 places that it can be done. If you just want to bulk import everything, we have in the toolbox, we have this ability to just go to the simple data dictionary uploader, and that just uploads things without connecting them to anything. If you wanted to connect them to things, we've got 2 possible options. We've got the ability from the data set specifications to upload them, or from the distributions as well. So if you wanted to kind of link stuff together, there's a few extra fields we can add, and that'll build out our data dictionaries like this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to our next one. So that's getting stuff in. So we've been getting a lot of stuff in so far, which is really useful. But like I said, one of the downsides was previously we'd had people kind of talking through the ability for them to pull stuff out and do bulk uploads, or sorry, bulk updates. So if spelling mistakes were made across multiple things, or if you wanted to relink things to like relink, a whole bunch of data element concepts to a new data element, for example, we had a whole bunch of problems with that. To get around that, we've got 2 new cool things we'll talk through. We're going to talk about the bulk downloader and then its sibling, I guess, the bulk importer. So these are basically 2 different kind of views on the same kind of functionality. The bulk downloader is designed, so we've just started with this one, and we've found a teeny little bug that we're going to fix in a second. But what this is designed to do is this is designed to allow us to download a whole bunch of content in the site. So if I wanted to grab a whole bunch of data elements, I can filter by work group, and I could say only grab the things from my work group. And we've noticed that it duplicates the rows for as many of these, and we've got a fix for that for tomorrow. So this is going to look a little bit weird, but you'll notice when I show it. So you'll see we've got a whole bunch of test data in here about Pokemon, because why not? We've got a lot of millennials. And unfortunately, the error is at the moment, it's downloading multiples at a time. So it's downloading multiple copies of the rows, depending on how many of these you select. But by the time we fix this up, or by the time tomorrow comes around, we'll have a fix for this. But the idea is what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to download content and then bulk update it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this downloader, and it downloads an Excel document that looks a little like this. What we want to be able to do is we want to be able to edit and update things in a bulk way. So I'll just get rid of all those duplicates. You can see these universal identifiers are coming through again, and it's grabbed all of the fields on that I've requested. So I only requested the name, the definition, and the version. So what I want to do here is I'm going to just add the version in. I want to make this bigger. Gosh, Excel's fun to work with. Okay, so I'll shrink that down. So what I want to do is I'm going to say this is version 1 of my Pokemon attack data. Never thought I'd say that in a professional setting. And this one's version 2. So I'm going to make these both text because Excel can be a bit challenging sometimes. So we're going to make this text and we'll call this version 2.0. So if I save this, and I'll save this to my webinar directory. So save as, more options, and I'm going to save this to my webinars. So I'll call this data element updater. So what it's going to do is, I'll save this. So basically what this allows us to do is, as you can see, we can now start getting bulk amounts of content out of the system for editing and updating and control. If you don't select all the fields, it's okay. We don't need all of them. And if you really wanted to bulk duplicate content, you could just not include the identifier. And then we're going to jump to show you the uploader as well. So I'm going to go back to my toolbox. And actually, did anybody have questions on the downloading stuff before we continue?
No, I'm just going to assume that like the two formats work together. So when you download it, it automatically puts it in to a format you could then upload it.
That's what we're going to see in a second. So we'll just jump straight forward. So it's not quite the same. The data dictionary format's designed to be quite wide, and it's designed to have a lot of different columns. So again, you can kind of see the difference here. We're only kind of pulling a few things in, and it's only about one type. One other thing to note is it's giving us, we've also made it so that it downloads all the help as well. So if you wanted to kind of help someone, and I'll show you an example of a data asset register in a second, but if you wanted to get somebody to kind of add content in, this would help them identify what fields they can add. So we can even see we can add references to other metadata through this as well. The way this one goes up, again, because it's slightly differently structured, Geordie, is we have our bulk uploader. So, and these are designed to work really well together. So if I go to my bulk updater or my bulk creator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more thing in here. So as you can see, I've got a UUID. I'm going to add in a person. We want to know about people. I'll go to my favorite one, favorite ice cream. It's a good safe go-to bet. The preferred flavor of ice cream, frozen treats of a person. Version 0.1, because that's probably not very good. So I've not given this one an identifier, so it's not going to be able to update anything, and I'll show you why that's good in a second. So I'll close out my updates file, and I have to pick the right type. So I'm going to tell it I want to update a whole bunch of data elements, and the bulk creator, again, can give you a template file for you to fill in. So you don't have to rely on downloading. If you just want to start bulk creating, you can do that as well. So we've got our downloader here. I'm going to jump back to all of my prepared examples, and I'm going to drag my data element updates in, and we should see, there we go. So again, we've identified it's going to update one here. So it's going to update our Pokemon. It's going to update our person's name, and it's going to create a favorite ice cream. What I can also do is I can add it into a work group. So I have the ability to push it straight into a working area, and I also have the ability to tag it as well. So I can kind of flag it for my use later on. So I'm going to go example, demo, stuff. And that's not, there we go. So I've added a tag so I can find these later. And if I save that, I can see that all of my, I'm just not going to, I should have removed the Pokemon one. What am I doing? So as you can see here, we've updated this one. It's updated our version. All the changes have gone through. So again, we've now got bulk upload and bulk download. And the idea there is we can kind of start again on that early journey. We can start creating a lot of content through there. Any other questions on uploads and downloads and stuff like that?
All good, as far as I'm aware.
Anybody else? No, lots of head shaking. All right, I'm really excited for you guys to try that one out. I think it's going to be really useful. Again, the idea that we're seeing here is there's a lot of feedback around how do I start my organization on this journey? What do I do to get people, doing this? And this is our way to kind of smooth that transition. So we're giving them a little bit of a flavor of the metadata in a format that everybody's got right on their desktop, ready to use. The last thing that we're going to have a look at that's from live stuff today is the interrogator. So this is one that only super users have at the moment. So only registry administrators will have this, but we are pushing this functionality down further, and I'll show why that's a bit of a challenge when we bring it up. So the latest thing that we've kind of started to roll out is the ability for people to start pulling statistics out of their registry. So we're starting to get a lot of content into a lot of Aristotles now. What's the impact of that? What's happening behind the scenes? And to answer that question, we've built in this report builder. So if you haven't got access to this, it's okay. Not every user will. But what we are looking at doing is we're looking at rolling this out on a per stewardship organization basis as well. But the idea is the report builders are halfway between being able to kind of perform really raw analytics against all of the metadata, but in a relatively user-friendly way that's also fully permission checked as well. So we're starting to add that in. So at the moment, the permissions are only for super users, but we're looking at adding more controls to make this easier. So to start building a metadata report, what we need to do is we need to pick a model that we want to select from. So this is the area that we start from, and it allows us to kind of join across different areas. And as you can see, the report builder allows us to do a lot. So we can track issues, we can get information on reviews, all of the links, all of the different metadata types, and we're adding more to allow for the reports to be built against statuses, users themselves, memberships, whole organizations. So as we slowly kind of just test the permissions on this, we're adding more and more functionality. What we're talking about, though, is the ability for us to, I'm just going to do a little bit of a query on all metadata items. And what it does is it populates all the possible fields that a user can kind of query across. So up the top, we have all of the different relationships across the registry. And to give you an idea of what that means, I'm going to bring up our toolbox again and show you a little tool that's probably going to be very helpful for people who are doing this. This is the metadata map that shows all the different types that are in use in this registry. So this allows us to see all of the different relationships between different metadata types to understand, can we find the data element that's got the data element concept with the most data elements, or that's linked to the most data sources and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a really basic one just to get us started. And I'm going to say I want the name and I want the definition and I want the version for all metadata types in the registry. And we'll just do a quick report and grab that. And you can see what it's doing is it's just going across and it's grabbing everything that it can. So we've grabbed some stuff that has no definition. So that's probably a bit of a problem. So what we could do is we could go, if we wanted to do a bit of a quality check, we can add a filter and go any definition that is equal to nothing. Will this work? There we go. So we've already started to identify some low quality content in the registry. So this is really powerful, again, for that quality control to check what's happening behind the scenes. The other one that we'd prepared for this is if we wanted to do our version. So I'll get rid of this one. There we go. What I want a version that is greater than 1.0. We'll go greater than or equal to 1.0. So anything, what we want to do here, what we're really trying to see is content that's kind of been endorsed to a certain level. And as you can see, there's not much in the registry that's been version controlled. And those are the things that we're going to be looking at changing in a second. So I'm going to jump back because there was one thing that I wanted to do. Go back to my toolbox. I had one other demo prepared that was going to be really valuable. What we're looking at is bulk importing. So what I've done is I've prepared a little data asset register. So again, one of those really powerful things that people talk about is the ability to record all the different data standards across the organization. And this is one that you can see here. So again, we're looking at updating some content. So it's this wholesale minimum data standard we were talking about earlier, and then a whole range of data set specifications across the organization. So rather than needing to go in and bulk enter these, we can just kind of start tracking them in our Excel spreadsheets that a lot of organizations already have and start getting those in. So what I'm going to quickly do to make this demo a little bit better is I'm going to do what I should have done in the last section, and that's I'm going to bulk upload our data set specifications and start building a really nice data asset register in Aristotle. And as you can see, it's picked up all of our data set specifications and it's picked up the changes we want to make here as well. So if I save that, it's going to save all of our content. It's going to give us all of our links so we can find everything. And then what I can do is I can rerun the report, and that's what we were supposed to see earlier. There we go. So as you can see, the report's done on a live basis. So as changes happen throughout the registry, we can start running these reports and downloading Excel spreadsheets, downloading CSVs to kind of track what's happening across the registry. We can even link across different things. So if I was looking to get information about issues, phew, there it is. So, oh, my mouse has got a bit wacky. Oops. Go away. Sorry, if I wanted to get the name of any issues, that's better, that are associated with any of this content, I can generate a report and I can see the issues are coming through as well. So none of these have any open issues, but I've been able to track issues here. I can track reports and reviews. So I can see a lot of content going across the registry. So I'm going to do my last pause before we do our last thing. And we've got a hands up from Tanya. Yeah, Tanya, fire away.
I was just going to ask, with the report builder, the stuff that you can like drag out to have a look at, is that only things that have a, like, if it's in your sandbox, is it going to drag that stuff out as well?
It will, and that's why we've only restricted it to administrators at the moment. So this is designed to kind of, again, find everything across the system. The permissions on this one are really challenging, so we're not rolling this out to all users. However, what we are doing is we are looking at doing a more restricted version just for administrators of those stewardship organizations. It's also something that can be disabled as well, so not all registries will have this available. You do need to explicitly give people access as well.
Okay.
So that's the idea there. But I will take that on notice and I'll see what we can do to limit that as well.
I guess, you know, if you're still dragging it out, as long as you know it's from the sandbox, like it's not something that's...
Yeah, would you be able to maybe like set a filter based on location or registration status? I don't know if it has a different registration status.
We could do registration status, or we could filter stuff to remove the sandbox. So let's give it a shot, all right? Okay, so it worked a second ago. So if we grab everything, what we'll do is we'll go back and grab our work group. So anything that's in a sandbox won't be in a work group because it hasn't been added to a team. So if I go work group name, so what I should be able to do, all right, so here we've got work group name. So here's all the stuff in work groups. Here's all the stuff that's just sitting in my sandbox or somebody's sandbox. What I could do then is I could go, if I add a filter and go name equal to nothing. Whoops, not equal to nothing. There we go. So it's gone and found everything that's only in a work group. So we can filter those out as well. So there we go. Cool. All right. And as we said, like we're looking at doing a restricted permission just for stewardship organization administrators as well. So this will give, like, especially for segmented large registries where they've split the permissions out, it'll give more control and more access to run these reports for everybody. And we're going to look at adding some of these reports to the executive dashboard that we're looking at build, or that we're going to be building this quarter as well. So without further ado, let's do the last bit, and then we'll go do roundtables like Geordie suggested. This one's pretty rad. I'm pretty excited about this one, to be honest. This is what we're calling our new review tool. So one of the good things to do is I'm going to jump back to my dashboard, and I'm going to show you what the reviews currently look like. And I'll show you this. Actually, this problem came out because a client had asked us to do some content review of a large amount of content. So we're looking at, 20 something data set specifications, all with associated metadata, all with bits underneath. And they said, can you review everything? And it was probably the first time we've done a project of that scale. And we'll go, okay, this is a bit of an interesting one. And we started using our tool. We started using Aristotle because that's the best place for us to do our reviews. We like to do all of our client work through the tool, so our clients have a record, and it gives us the opportunity to test our stuff. And we found it just didn't quite work well enough, right? And it's not often you'll hear the CEO of a company say that, but it didn't, because for us to do a review of this data standard, what it meant was we would need to find all of the impacted items, and then we'd need to click every item, and then go in, and then we'd need to, check that the content was good, and then we'd have to go back, and then we'd have to check the next one, and then we'd have to make sure that we covered everything off. It was starting to become a bit unmanageable. So we actually had this really great idea of trying to develop something new. And this is really exciting because we developed it all outside of Aristotle. So as you can see, we've got a nice development app that we've stood up for this. But what we wanted to do was we wanted to kind of test to see if we could develop stuff outside of Aristotle. And that's when we came up with this review tool. And this review tool, it's hosted externally, and it's all authenticated. And we'll talk through how that works in a second. But basically, we're going to put the instructions up, and everybody's going to be able to use it from now. So what it is it's basically a way of viewing everything about a review on a single page, including all the issues and all of the fields and all the relationships in a really straightforward way. So it mimics the ability to kind of download an entire dictionary and do your track changes in Word, but it's all possible straight through the tool itself. So the first things I'm going to run through is how you get connected. So all these instructions will be on our community at community.aristotlemetadata.com later today. So I'll show you that. So community.aristotlemetadata.com, everything will be coming up here. But what we need to do is we need to know what registry we're using. So this will be the name of your registry. So if your Aristotle whatever your registry set up at, so aristotle.myorganization.org.au, for example, you'd put that in here. So all I need to do is I need to grab the URL of the registry I'm in. And once I've gone to my review, I can paste that in. I need an API key. So an API key is basically a restricted access password designed for applications like this. So what that means is I can set up a password, and you can see this, and I could do this for my live registry as well, for aristotle.cloud. You could see it, and I could revoke this instantly. So I wouldn't need to worry about you doing any particular things, because I can really restrict what this token is usable for, and I'll show you how to do that. So from your dashboard, if you go to your profile, you'll see you have this little option down here under where your user account is. You'll see we have this option called API token management. Under API token management, I can generate a new token, and this allows me to set a new token that has a new set of permissions. So rather than giving it all of the access that I have, I can actually restrict it out. So what I want is I want a token that can read metadata but can't write it out. You will need a token that can read, oops, not that one, read and write issues. and read and write reviews. You can also set an expiry date. So if you were cautious about like forgetting about this, you can actually say, I'm going to set this up to stop working at the end of the month. So after the end of the month, my new token's not going to work. So I'll create a new review token. And you should treat this like a password, but you can revoke it as well. So I'm going to create a token and it'll tell you all about what it's for. I can copy that and I'll show you how to revoke it as well. So what I'll do is I'll just write that down there. You'll see here it says you can never see it again. And that's to kind of, again, to protect the security of this little token. But if I go back, oops, to my token page, here you can see my new tokens and I can actually delete the old one. So I'll delete that now. I'll delete my old token here and you will see, yes. So if I try and review it, oh no, it can't go through. So it's all secure. What I can use though is I can use my new key that I've set up just for this demo. And all I need to do is I need to paste this in and I need to just paste the ID of the review. Oh, no. Oops. No slash at the end. There we go. The only other thing that you need now is, if I go back to my dashboard, here we go. So every review throughout the registry has an identifier. So this one's number 1. You can see that here. If you load the review, you'll see it at the top of the page. No, you won't. I lied. But you will see it in the URL as well. So it'll just be here. So it'll be review/1. And if you take that review number and pop it in here, you'll see that everything's now loaded up. So I'll do that again just so you know that it wasn't a complete lie. So I pop in review 1, I do a review, and what I was going to do is I'm going to grab everything from this registry. So instead of having to click through all those pages, it's now brought down everything. And you can see just by the length of this URL, the length of this little scroll bar, we mean everything. So the idea here is it's designed to help do that review in a single place. We're slowly starting to add more and more into this to more and more functionality in as we kind of test it. And we want to test it with you, our users, through the community to make sure it's up to scratch, because this is a huge new improvement to the platform. As you can see, I'll run down the page. You can see it's found all of the items in the review. So we only had one item in the review, and that was this minimum data standard. You can see that it's brought through all the information about everything that's included in it. And if I click any of these, it will give me, I'll double check that, but it should be taking us to the item in the page as well. So it's showing me the reference name, it's showing me the data element, whether or not it's got an order, any additional information, whether or not it's included, conditionally included, or if it's mandatory or anything like that. So I can check everything out from this one place. I can see when it was last modified, the name, I can see who's controlling it, so which stewardship organization it's a part of, versioning work groups, so the whole thing. The other really cool thing is in the gutter, which is what's it called in Word, and maybe we'll come up with a better name, but in the issues tray, there we go, that's a better name. In the issues tray, we can also start seeing all of the issues against an item as well, and we can actually create them. So I'm going to say the definition isn't long enough. And I could add some more detail here. So if I create that, you will see, wait, what? I'm pretty sure I added all the right permissions, but assume that worked. Let me see. I'm going to go back. Do I need metadata right permissions? Let's find out. We'll save that. Let's give that another shot. And if this doesn't work, then we'll call it quits. All right, make the definition longer is what we were doing. Again. Okay, there we go. All right, so we'll fiddle with the permissions on that. But as you can see, all of the issues are now showing up here. So any issues that are opened against any items in this review will show up on the left. And as you're going through tracking them, you can add new issues as well. We've done a limited preview of this with another client, and they've kind of said we want to be able to tick things off as well as make issues. Yes, we're looking at doing that as well. So we want to let people know how far through they are, because as you can see, it's getting quite long. The other really good thing is we're starting to add validation checks in here as well. So as you can see, we're adding our automated validation rules. So this one has checked that our data element name has the right structure, and it's got all of the different components in. So it's got the name of the object class, it's got the name of the property, which is name, the data element concept, and the value domain, all in the name of the data element. So it's a really well-formed data element. So we know how that this is a high quality piece of content. What I can also do is I can jump around to different components. So if I wanted to see this item in Aristotle, I can just hover over it. Whoops, hover over it. And this will jump to the URL. So you can see down the bottom, I could open this in a new tab. And that takes me straight to my person object class. If I wanted to see it in the review, what I could do is I can then just go find in the page, and then it's going to jump down. So as you can see, we've jumped down quite a far way in the page, but we can review everything. We can kind of continue going through, reviewing all of the content in the registry or all of the content in this review in a single page, tracking all of my issues in one place. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be over time incorporating this. Close this one. We're going to be slowly incorporating this into the reviews themselves. But the idea of this is we're basically releasing this as an open beta to the community to start using now, because we found a lot of value in this. It basically reduced the time for large data dictionary reviews by quite a long time, from a couple of days down to a couple of hours to review content, because you could find and track everything through. So that's the end of that demo, and we're coming close to running out of time. So I'm going to just jump to questions and feedback time. What do we think?
Just personally, I think it's going to be fantastic improvement, Sam. I remember back in 2018 when we published that stuff at DSS. That was a fun time, looking through 156 items and making sure they all had the right publication status and registration status manually. It was great fun.
So this is really going to reduce that a lot. And like I said, Geordie, we're going to have the instructions up either today or first thing tomorrow morning. So by lunchtime tomorrow, you can start using this tool, and we'll have a nice feedback form on the community, because what we really want to encourage with this one is we want to encourage early access, so that we can start getting that feedback, because I think we don't want to hold this out. I think it's going to take us quite a long time to get this polished. But I think the value that this can add immediately to everybody is worth us giving early access before, and that gives us the opportunity to do a lot of feedback. And we're going to start doing this in future as well. So thank you. Any other questions?
If you're going through the instructions and stuff and you need help, you can talk to someone, or
Yeah. So
just call Sam. Direct mobile, right?
There's me. There's a whole team of us behind me. You can't see them, but they're behind that wall back there.
okay.
No. The things I'd recommend there, Tanya, and thank you, because you're quite new to the community.
I am. I'm filling in for Alex.
Oh, cool. That's
from
good.
Potential X. So yeah.
Yeah, I saw her email came through. No, so we've got the community. So we've got community.aristotlemetadata.com. One of the things we encourage is you've always got our support email. So support@aristotlemetadata.com is a great place to go. And Geordie can kind of talk through the support we can provide. The other thing that we're really trying to build is that inter-community as well. So there's a lot of people now using Aristotle. So I think we had 40 attendees the last one, and I think we had 20 today who are all registered to kind of attend. So the community is growing quite a lot, and what we want us to start doing is bringing those connections together, because there's a lot of opinions and a lot of information around how metadata can be built, and it's not just us. So yeah.
Okay, thanks.
That's okay. Any other questions today, or feedback, or immediate suggestions that we can start looking at for the tool?
No, these should go a long way of helping people get things done. I think especially the bulk export import will help a lot for trying to get things cleared through senior executive where necessary.
Yeah.
Just having them be able to see it in one spot as a file they're familiar with will help them a lot. Ideally, they'd be familiar with Aristotle, but hasn't been that way in the past, in my experience.
That's really interesting. Yeah, we could certainly look at making that nicer for those users as well. Any others? Because it is getting close to 5. I'm always happy to stay around for questions. But it seems like we're not getting a lot of questions today, which is fine. What I will say is this. I will say, usually somebody's going to jump in at the last second, but what I will say is this is my closing thing is we've recorded this video. We said that up front. We've recorded the video. So you missed anything, you'll be able to track it. We're also going to be putting a little bit of documentation about this new tool up as well. And we've got some help that we're finishing off for those new features as well. So all of the usual places for you to go for more information are available. But we do encourage everybody who's interested in this review stuff to start using it as quickly as you can, because we want to start getting that feedback through. And if you get stuck, like we said with Tanya, either email support or hop on the community and give us your feedback there, because the more open feedback you have, the more the community can benefit from, those kind of additional ideas and mashing those ideas together. So it's 5 to 5. Nobody looks like they have any questions, in which case what I'm going to do is I'm going to say thank you and goodbye. Thanks everybody for attending. Really appreciate it. And we're really happy to kind of make this available. If you do have any questions, hop on the community. And if you'd like to learn more, hop on to aristotlemetadata.com and we'll see you at the next webinar.